So, dude, I go to Elena yesterday. I'm like, I'm gaining this weight and I don't know what it is. Dude, she says age. She says age. I'm like, no, I don't mean that. I mean, like, is it fat or muscle? She's like, it's age. I'm like, she's like, it's age.
I concur with Elena. I agree with her. I think it is the age.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say anything. For those of you watching on the video, I think
you can tell.
Make a comment, make him feel better, But yeah, you can tell.
Age,
say anything
savage. Else. That's my wife. Yeah. All right, let's get going with the show. Hey, listen, everybody. Welcome to the Lifeonaire Show. I'm your host, Jason Wojo. At an undisclosed weight, and we are in the Lifeonaire Show here to help you make more, work less, have a life, and create a life you love. And I am joined by my co-host, Polish Peter. What's up, dude?
The one that weighs less, a lot less. Yes. So, and were you gonna say Lifeonaire? Because you have background, like we're gonna say Lifeonaire.
Yeah, this is my secret mountain hideout. If you're watching this on YouTube, you see, like, I have just an array of different backgrounds that I'm continually just having fun with here. So you can be jealous all you want.
Was it that bad that she said about the way that you went into some undisclosed location? You
I'm in my fortress of solitude right now. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So listen, dude, this episode is going to be awesome. I can't wait. We have Jacci Konkle. And Jacci is someone who I've known for over 10 years now. She came into Lifeonaire as a student with me, and she's had such a cool journey. Like, she's just taken so many twists and turns, and she used to have a sandals company, and she's super outgoing and bubbly and just like a really personal, I mean, she just radiates energy. And so I can't wait to learn from what from some of the lessons. I can't wait to pick her brain as to like how she's been, how this journey has navigated for her and where she's ended up. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I want you guys to listen from a perspective of, if you are going to do something in life, right, taking on this new journey or whatever, right, how do you actually, quote unquote, burn the ship? Because sometimes it's important, right? And how do you actually go after this and how you deal with failures and all that kind of stuff? Because we touch on those kinds of things. And there's a lot of cool lessons in this episode when it comes to this particular subject matter. I think it's going to be helpful to a lot of people.
Awesome. Let's dive into it right now. Here we go. Jacci Konkle. All right. Hey, Jacci, welcome to the Lifeonaire Show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Ooh, I cannot wait to dive in with you. I know a little bit about your story, and you're someone who just radiates energy and success. And I know it wasn't always like that, but like I want our listeners to get to know you a little bit more. And so right now, tell us a little about what you're doing right now.
Well, currently I fully enjoy coaching with Lifeonaire, but my business is real estate. So my husband and I buy properties, we flip them, we wholesale them, we build new construction. We've done some out of the box stuff with, buying notes and rent to owns and land contracts and all kinds of different things in real estate. But our main focus is flipping and wholesaling. And I also have real estate students. I own the Appleton RIA in Wisconsin, and we have students from there that we're also teaching how to do what we do.
How did you get into real estate, by the way? Like, I know when I first, so for our listeners, Jacci and I actually started off as students in Lifeonaire way back over a decade ago, really, at this point. I think for me, it was like 2009-ish.
Yeah, me too.
And I remember you actually had I remember this whole sandal company thing. And so you weren't always in real estate. Like, take us back to let's rewind the clock. Let's go back in a time machine here. And like,
sandal company.
Oh, dude, yeah, you don't know anything about this. It's an awesome story, but there's a lot I want to dig into here with Jacci. So take us back. Like, what did you like? What was bring us back into rewind the clock for us.
It's kind of funny because just yesterday I was thrown back into the sandal company when my daughter found some in the closet as we were cleaning it out. So, Peter, they're called Topless Sandals. So I know you have to turn your camera off and laugh now, but they don't have a top.
What does that mean? What are you trying to say here? God.
Well, we would go to like flea markets and we had a big sign that said Topless Sandals, because I always believe you should name a company what it is so nobody has a question, right? But people would come by and they're like, topless. That's all they saw was topless. We're like, yeah, the sandals are topless. But
Jacci was hit with the marketing there.
Hello. But they're just like a flip-flop with no top. So they have a food grade glue, if you will, that stick to the bottom of your feet. So They actually make like women's bras of this stuff too, with no straps and then you can rewash them and then they re-stick when they dry. So anyways, these sandals, people would use them if they had foot injuries or really cool foot tattoos, or they just got a foot tattoo and they didn't want the shoe to hurt, or they just had like a surgery or a sprain, or they were going in a sunless tanning booth, a spray booth, or they just had cool foot jewelry, or they just wanted to look like they weren't wearing shoes. I would get busted in stores all the time. They're like, oh, you can't come in here, you don't have any shoes. And I'd be like, but I do.
And let me tell you about our shoe in particular.
I mean, that was the biggest way to sell them, is to wear them. But we were wholesalers for the manufacturers. We did not manufacture them. We did not invent them. So anyways, we sold them all over the world, and we made really good money doing it, but it didn't mesh with real estate.
So okay. So how do, first of all,
right?
I want to keep working backwards here. Was this your first company or your first effort at business and entrepreneurship?
No. So when I got out of high school, I joined the Army because it looked fun, and they lied. So
Army looked fun? I want to hear, like, how did it look fun?
Right? Like, everybody should hire that recruiter as their salesman, because he showed me a video that he showed me hiking and, climbing and awesome views and like camaraderie and just like super fun stuff, right? Nope, he didn't show the ruck on your back, the blisters on your feet, the guy screaming from both sides, spitting in your face. They didn't show any of that.
That got cut on the editing floor.
All of it got cut. But I did it, and I only made it through because they told me I couldn't every day. When I joined, I was 14 pounds underweight. And when I came out, I was, let's just say, giant. But I was full of muscle. So then I went to college, and I went to college for 4.5 years minus 2 weeks. 2 weeks before graduation, I was sitting in my auditing class in a double major in accounting and finance. And I realized that I hated it. And I had an internship, and I was stuck in an office by myself with a computer and no people. And if you can imagine me in an office with a computer and no people to talk to as a bean counter, I couldn't do it. So 2 weeks before graduation, I left that class and I went home. And then I sat at home for a couple hours, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to go back to class. I might as well leave. So I packed up my car and drove to Florida. And this is from Wisconsin. And then I went to Florida, and I didn't know what to do. So I sat on the beach for a while and went broke. I joined a network marketing company and put all my credit cards that I got in college, because, they always give you those applications. Guys, do not fill those out. I got a free 2 liter of Mountain Dew every time I filled out a credit card application. And so they had me, right? I don't drink the stuff anymore, but I'm like, what? I can get free Mountain Dew, and all I have to do is fill out this application. And then all these credit cards started coming in the mail. I had over 20 credit cards. And so, yeah, it was crazy. Network marketing knocked on my door, and it was one of those front load companies. It actually ended up getting shut down as a pyramid scam. I didn't know any better back then. It sounded good. It was based on health. And so I bought all their vitamins and products, and I'm like storing them in the rental that I'm living in Florida, and had all this stuff. And I was paying a huge desk rent at that time in Clearwater, and it just was like crazy. So
let me pause right there. So did you actually graduate from college, or you actually dropped out 2 weeks early?
I left. Everybody gave me crap.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So my parents were yelling at me. My grandma was disappointed, wrote me a nasty gram. And I was just like, listen, nobody has paid one single dime towards my education but me. Yeah. I went to the Army. I worked 2 jobs. I did this. I have the choice. I don't need the diploma to be the receipt on the wall for the money I spent.
And you didn't know
what it would have been.
And you didn't know earlier than that it wasn't going to be what you liked. You kind of liked it up till then, or you had some inclination this wasn't going to be exactly what you liked?
I was telling myself that eventually I'd like it. The only reason that I went to school and I went for accounting and finance is because I grew up broke. I can't speak.
I know what you mean.
So English could have been your second major is what I'm hearing.
Yes, it could have. But all growing up, I always told my parents, one day I'm going to make a ton of money. Like, that's all I cared about, because I didn't have it. I wanted it. And so I always told my parents, one day I'm going to have a ton of money. I'm going to do something. I'm going to make a lot of money. And so when I was looking at what I could go to school for, I can't stand blood and stuff. So doctor was out of the question. I could have been a great lawyer, but I didn't want to study all that law. It was boring to me. And so to me, it was like, okay, well, I'm going to be an accountant, right? I'm going to be a CPA, and then I'm going to back it with financial planning, and I'm going to make a lot of money, helping other people make a lot of money. So there was that side of it too, but that's not really what it was when I got to school. But it just took me a long time to really, sometimes you have to cut bait, right? We can follow something for so long because we've already put so much effort into it, so much time into it, so much money into it. And guys, there's probably a lot of you that are doing something right now because it's like, well, I've already spent all this time, effort, and money. I got to see it to the end. And at some point, when you get to the end, then what? Now you're going to go do it just because you got the diploma? You know, I wasn't going to go into that field because it wasn't going to make me happy. It was time for me to decide, okay, how am I going to be happy? I can worry about making money, but if I'm not happy, who cares? So like that little bit of Lifeonaire was creeping in without me ever even knowing Lifeonaire was there yet. This is 1990 something. I can't remember. 96, 5. It was 95. It was 1995. And so I just had to be happy.
So you finally reached the point where you knew without a shadow of doubt this was not what you wanted to do, and you said, like, you know, well, hey, why am I going to bother? Let's just move on to the next chapter of life. And you just moved on, took action, and just made it happen. And so
cut bait.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so that takes a lot of courage, I think, too, for people to, like, whenever that point is, especially when you have sunk, like you said, a lot of cost, money, time, energy, effort into something, and you finally realize it's not for you, to just change directions. Now, and did you accumulate a lot of student debt while you're doing that?
I did. I didn't pay my student debt off until 5 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And that was incredible because they allowed me to defer it while I was broke for so long. So I kept deferring it until they made me pay it. And then it was a happy day to pay it off.
Sure. Yeah. And then, so you have the student loan stuff, then you start. And so you looked at network what appealed to you about network marketing?
You know, honestly, it was, I mean, obviously at that point in my life, it was the promise of making money, right? Okay. And, you could be a millionaire. And I believed all that crap back then. But there was also just the people. And now I know they were fake, these people in that specific company. Now I had been in network marketing companies after that there were some great people. But there was a lot of personal development. So that I'm never going to regret having been involved in that company or any company after it with network marketing, because they're always pushing personal development. It's what got me into reading books like Think and Grow Rich, and, you know, all the greats, the Jim Rohns, the Brian Tracy's, Jim Stovall, Les Brown. I mean, all these guys, you know, I've read their books. I've met them. I've had lunch with them. I've met some of the greats. I mean, I hung out personally with not Jim Stovall, with Jeff Olson. He wrote, The Slight Edge. And I know Jason and Peter, you guys are always pointing everybody to the video. You know, the 1% change, doing 1% more. Jeff Olson wrote that book, and in my final network marketing company, which was Prepaid Legal, it's called Legal Shield now. Jeff Olson used to be at the top and run that company. And I got to hang out with him all the time. So he poured a lot into who I am today in some of the things that he taught me.
So is that part of the appeal to you, is of that community of the network marketing, is the personal development, personal growth side of the business that helps people kind of, you know, and so that was an appealing factor to you. So you went through several network marketing companies, that sounds like. What is it?
I did.
But it sounds like you enjoyed it. There were parts of it that you enjoyed as well. Was it that what are some of the things that appealed to you? Was it the independence? Was it the promise of money? Was it personal growth? What are some of the different things you tried as well?
Yeah, well, I tried some other nutrition companies. The first one I was in was a water filtration company. And so, you know, I went into, one was a music company, one was a travel company. Jeff Olson started a company called TPC, The People's Choice, and it was all positive programming on a satellite. And that's how I first met Jeff Olson. And then he sold that company to Prepaid Legal and ended up on their leadership team. So we all just kind of went over to Prepaid Legal, and then eventually the satellite went away. But TPC had all of the greats. And so it was personal development on a channel, like on a bunch of channels. You had like a dedicated satellite for it. And it was amazing. And Jeff Olson started that. So it was really just kind of following the people after a while, but not having enough confidence in myself or any ideas of what other business I would start. Network marketing was a way for me to be in business for myself.
Got it. Yeah. And so during this time, how are the finances looking? You said you grew up kind of without a whole lot. You have all these credit cards. Like, did you spend a whole lot of money on the companies? Because I know by the way, I'm speaking relatively out of ignorance, especially compared to you who's actually been in these. I've never been part of one. I've only had hearsay conversations with people. And tell me if some of these things are true. And I'm just curious for our listeners now, because quite frankly, there's probably a lot of people that are listening right now that are looking for a way out of the rat race, and they are looking to get out of the 9 to 5. Is it true that, as a global truth or generalization, that usually it's the early adopters that do well in network marketing, and then the people that later down the line have a harder time, or what is your recommendations and what have your observations been with network marketing that people might find useful?
Yeah, I mean, when they say anyone can do it, I don't think that's really true. I think you have to be somebody who is a self-starter. You have to have a little bit of a strong personality. You have to be willing to like really run hard. For me, oh my gosh, I was easily putting in 80 hours a week. I was not living any life at all. In the end, I was doing well in the end of network marketing, but people quit just as fast as you can recruit them. You end up doing it for them a lot. You have to find a couple of really great people as far as, making money off of your team. But if you go out and sell, if they have like a quality product or service and you can go out and just sell it, really all you did is just buy yourself a job, right? You're a 1099 salesperson is what you are. And that's really what I was in the end. I had a team, but as soon as I stopped pumping it for them, most of them went away. Really at this point, all but one, since I quit in January of 2009, thanks to Lifeonaire, and just kind of hung up my network marketing hat. And I still have one guy that actually does anything from that team. I do still make a residual income. Just doing my taxes. I made almost $5,000 last year, not even looking at anything. So just coming in, that's something after 11 years of being gone. It dwindles a little every year, but to still bring in almost $5,000, 11 years later, that's just a testament to finding a good company.
So I got a question for you, because I think you got a lot of experience, not only from network marketing, sales, and hanging out with all these guys and reading a lot of those self-development.
Yeah.
What are some of the lessons that you've learned over the time that have really helped you to be more successful?
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson, especially from network marketing, is to be careful who you follow. For me, it was always like I was trying to look the best, and I realized that a lot of these people that were in the companies, they looked all fancy and snazzy on stage and they had a great suit and they talked a big game, but then you go to their big house and it's empty. There's no furniture because they blew all their money on the house and what the perception is out in public, and you go in their house, not all the really big ones, but I'm saying like as you come up. So my point is just be careful who you follow, careful who you listen to, think about what really matters to you, because material things don't matter a bit to me at all anymore. And I actually am embarrassed sometimes when I get something nice because I don't want someone to think that I'm trying to put it out there or whatever. Like we recently acquired some pretty cool things and I don't even want to put it on Facebook because I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to say, look what I got. Because that's what people do. Right. Even though I'm really excited and I'm really proud of it. But I just, now I'm afraid of that. Right. So just be careful what you value because material things are not worth it.
So when you were in these network marketing companies, you said you went through a number of them. Was it the same? And now I know not a lot of the network marketing companies will have you purchase an inventory of product that you're responsible for buying, and then that's how they make money as well. Now, with every time you changed a company, my guess is perhaps you were left with a bunch of product that you hadn't sold. And yet what I want to get back to, what I'm wondering here is just like when you left college, you had a decision to make in that moment, whether to cut bait or not. and whether to move to the next thing. Tell us about what that was like. Have you been someone who's easily moved on to the next thing whenever you've had that realization this isn't what you wanted, or do you struggle with that?
I think I try really hard, but when the writing's on the wall, I'm not afraid to leave behind the time, effort, and money I put into something for the promise of moving forward. Okay. So yeah, I did. I left that stuff. I had, inventory that I moved around with me for a while, trying to personally consume it or like sell it at a discount. And finally I just threw it all away because I got sick of moving it, and I moved a lot for a while there. But yeah, even, you have a question.
Well, I'm wondering, like, were you also accumulating debt through all this too?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Always spending more than I made. And most of it going on credit cards. Mm-hmm. And really, I'm one of those people who will dig my feet in versus, like moonlighting, if you will. So I was on the island and burned the ships. I didn't have a ship to another job to bring a second income. So I was always trying to make money in the place where I was, in the company that I was with. So yeah, it definitely got pretty crazy.
Well,
eventually,
and so
you just can't do it.
Yeah. So now walk us through some more of those transitions. So you went through a bunch of network marketing companies, then then it was a sandal company, then it was real estate, or how did this play out?
Yeah. A little bit of both. I'm trying to think. Yeah, it was a little bit of both. So in prepaid legal, I actually started to make a decent income, and only because I went out and sold the service. It was a wonderful service. I still think it is. I still own it. And I went out and sold it, and I sold it to companies as an employee benefit. So again, I just owned my own job. I was a 1099 salesperson who set my own schedule and found my own clients is what I did. But in between all of that, I did file bankruptcy at the age of 25 and got rid of all my debts. My parents were kind enough to help me buy a house, and signed on the mortgage with me. I don't know why the bank allowed it, but my parents used their home as the down payment. Like, this is crazy stuff, right? So they took equity from their home as the down payment for 20% on my home and guaranteed my loan. So basically they got my mortgage. But the house was in all three of our names. So, and it was a duplex. So I house hacked. So I started to have a little bit of income from the other side. And that's when I joined Prepaid Legal. So, and actually in there, you know what, Wojo, I did get a job. After I left one of the network marketing, I decided to go after financial planning. So I went and got my securities license, and I went to a company and I was selling life insurance and securities. So I did end up being a financial planner. Yeah, for like 2 years.
I never knew that.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. That's funny. But yeah, I had a full securities license and insurance licenses and everything else. And then that's when Prepaid Legal started to make sense to sell along. And then I quit that and went full-time with Prepaid Legal. So I had to get my stuff back on track.
Why did you quit that? Yeah. You didn't enjoy it? It wasn't what you thought it would be?
It started to become too much pressure from the office of selling people something they don't really need because we get a bigger commission. And so the office manager was like, no, you need to put them in this fund family. I'm like, but this is better for them. And they're like, but this pays more and they're going to be fine. And I don't like that. If I'm telling you that this is your plan, and that's why I say be careful of financial planners. If they make a commission off the sales, you shouldn't be using them. You should go to somebody who is a fee for service, who just charges you for their advice, or gets paid based off of how well your portfolio does, not based off of what they sell you. Because that was a big unveiling for me and I couldn't take it anymore. So
wow. Yeah. Great. That's a great tip, and so here again, I mean, I'm
all over the board.
I got to tell you though, Jacci, like there's
a lot of stuff.
There's something really special here because you've quite frankly gone through more things than most people will ever attempt in their life. And so one of the things that as we're talking is really striking me is like your courage to step out of whatever you're doing as soon as you realize this isn't, it's not living you're not living what you want to live. You're not experiencing what you want to live. You're not getting the meaning or the joy or maybe it's the financial reward, whatever it is, whatever's not working, you step into the next thing and you give it your all. And if it's working, great, and you'll continue with it as long as it continues to meet your needs and everything else. But as soon as it's not, you kind of probably, I mean, maybe you look at it and see, hey, is there something I can do here to fix it? And if not, I'm out. I'm going to do the next thing. And that is incredible, because what I'm also detecting in you is like, what about your fear of failure? Like, I mean, because any one of these steps could have been a misstep, and yet here you are, you're still alive. You're doing phenomenally now. What is it? Have you ever struggled with that?
You know, if I did, I don't remember, because I've just always been so determined that what I say I'm going to do, I'm going to do, and that I'm going to make it to the other side. I think the Army probably did a lot of that, because I could not be told that I was going to make it. Like, everybody told me I wasn't going to make it. I couldn't do one push-up when I joined. And so my recruiter would have me come into the office every day before I went to basic training and give him a push-up, or as many as I could do. But like, he had to get me to the point where I could do one, because when you get to reception, if you can't do one push-up, then they send you to like this PT camp for 2 weeks before you can even go to basic training. So I had to do one good solid military push-up. And yeah, when I got to reception, I could do it, you know. But also at reception, the first thing they do is they give you what's called a D-Lab. It's a made up language. It's a test. I don't know what D-Lab stands for anymore, but it's a made up language, and you have to crack it. So they just keep talking to you in this made up language, and you have to solve what they're saying. And I scored perfect score, and I outscored everybody in reception, men, women, all of them. And so they invited me to be military intelligence, but the AIT was 18 months long. So I said no, because I'm like, I don't want to go to training for 18 months. So I went to be a truck driver because it was a shorter AIT, but those were my goals.
Yeah. I know what you mean about made up language,
right?
You know, cracking that code.
That's how I understand you every day. Cause I got
crack that code too. That's right. I do that on purpose. Listen, the action is on purpose. So people have to crack the code.
They have to listen carefully to every word you say. I like that. On.
So that is super cool. Wow. And so Jacci, we got to get you on the show more, because I love it when our guests make fun of Peter. This is great.
Yeah, right.
Bring it on. Yeah. I got my own ammo.
I think that made me feel like, you know what, you can tell me I can't all you want, but if I believe I can, then I can. Like it was hard. Yeah. It was, I mean, I almost didn't make it a lot of times. I mean, there was a lot of tears, there was a lot of screaming, but I wanted to make it. So I made it, you know. I believe that in business too.
What would you tell somebody that doesn't have that belief? Because that's I think what holds a lot of people back, is they don't believe in themselves or their ability to do it. Right. Like, what's your advice to them? How do you have that belief?
That's your question too, Peter?
How do you have that belief? Yeah.
I don't know. Honestly, for as rough as things were as a child, and for, you know, some of the missteps that my parents made, that we all make, right? As parents, it's impossible to be the perfect parent, and there's not a book, and we screw up and we don't realize it right away sometimes. The one thing my dad always did is tell me that I could do anything. So I
believed him.
Yeah. Yeah. Because everything else, for the most part, that he told me was true. So, I mean, when he told me I could do anything, and I said, it was a mantra growing up. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to take care of my parents. Like, I'm going to be successful. I'm a success. I'm a success. I'm a success. And I graduated at the top of my class. I was a National Honor Society, first year of eligibility in high school. You know, just did everything. I worked 40 hours a week in high school. I had a full-time job, and I would sleep 3 hours a night, and I graduated at the top of my class. So because I just somewhere in there had the belief that if I want to, and I tell myself I can, then I can. And if I fail, it's not my fault. You know, something had to have happened, or it wasn't, I really didn't want it, right? And so when I realize I really don't want something, it's like I innately know that I'm not going to be successful in it anyways. As soon as I realize I don't want it, now I'm not in it. My heart's not in it. How am I going to, at that point, make it? So I don't know. There's just something. So what would I tell someone else, Wojo? I guess really want what you want. Take a look at, what am I doing today? Do I really want this? What do I really want? What are the steps to get it? And now go attack those steps as if you meant it, in commit. And if at any point you're not committed, you got to reevaluate. You might need to make a new plan. If it's just failing, but you really want it, you might have to reevaluate your plan. That was one of the mantras that Jeff Olson always taught us, was plan, do, review. You plan it, you do it, you review it, and you might have to replan, or at that point, if it's not working, cut bait. We moved down to Illinois from Wisconsin because there was a bigger opportunity with Lifeonaire down there. And we lived down there for however many years, 6 years, I think. And during that time, I had a lot of success with Lifeonaire, but then Brett and I got married, and things started to turn. Like, we wanted to start a family and everything else. So we got married in July and pregnant in August and had a baby in June. And during that time, at our wedding, we were wearing topless sandals because we got married outside. And so when we were playing and I took off the heels, I had my topless sandals on, and everybody was asking me about them. So after our wedding, which we paid for in cash, it was it was all about the guy, not about the fanciness, right? And so we paid for our wedding with cash. So all the cash we got from our wedding was in our hands. So we started our sandals business with that. And we were still living in Illinois, but we started this topless sandals business. We contacted the manufacturer and said, hey, how can we sell these? And they said, well, we don't really sell them. And I was like, well, then you need a manufacturer's rep, and we would like to be those people. And so we packaged what they manufactured and blew their company up. But then when Kyla was about to be born, sorry for anybody from Illinois, but Wisconsin, Illinois, we got a thing, Packers and Bears. We couldn't have our baby born in Illinois. So we had to move home, and we needed to at least get over the border before she was born so she could be born in Wisconsin. Cause we're loyal cheeseheads. So
seriously, you literally drove over the border kind of thing?
We were willing to. We had it planned to have her born at a hotel, not even kidding, because she's a home birth anyways. So now you people are just realizing how weird I am. But we had like a suite with a big hot tub or like a tub, like a jetted tub, and we were going to have our midwife meet us there. But we ended up getting our house sold, and we found a townhouse over the border that we lived in for 10 months with her before we moved back home. But in that case, to sell our home, we took the first offer in the first week. This was 2007. This was 2007. And so stuff was coming down. We took the first offer on our house, and here's another example of being willing to just say, oh, well, and that was a great experience. We brought $42,500 cash to closing to get rid of our house in Illinois, because our goal was no longer to stay there. We wanted to be in Wisconsin. And so we paid to get rid of our house. I had to take that equity out of the duplex I still owned that I lived in prior, that I was house hacking. And so it was financially devastating to us, but the vision was get to Wisconsin, not sit and wait to get full price on our house. Yeah.
Well, it sounds to me like a lot of the reasons why you're able to move to the next stage, right? And abandon the old ship and move on to the next stage is the fact that you have this vision that you're going after. You're looking into the future. You're not looking in the past, what could have, should have, would have. You're always looking in the future, right?
You have to.
And I think,
if it doesn't match what you want, and this is before I even knew about Lifeonaire. This is 2007. So I didn't know what a vision was, but I guess I always had one, right? To some degree. Some of it was written, but not really. But I knew what I wanted, and I knew if something matched it or didn't. And the fact that we had somebody make an offer on our house and we could move to Wisconsin before the baby was born. Now, mind you, I unpacked the last box the day before she was born, but we did it. We got to Wisconsin. We lived there. We had an actual address, and she was born in our bedroom. So there you go.
So
TMI.
That's well, you might be the first person that's discussed this in the podcast. So you'll get this
you get for having a girl on. Huh? Yeah.
Well, and so one other thing that just struck me as you were speaking, Jacci, is like, and when Peter said, moving on to the next thing, do you have a sense of, Have you done any testing in this new thing, or do you have any confidence in this new thing that it's going to work, or are you looking at other people and saying, hey, do you have anyone to model, or do you just take that step? You're like, I have no proof this is going to work. I don't know for sure. I'm going to have to learn this. I'm just going to jump, like, and you just jump without really doing the homework in advance. What does that look like?
I think there's a mixture of both. I mean, in network marketing, I was always following somebody that showed they had success, right? Okay. And I would spend as much time with them. A lot of personal development gave me confidence in the things I had confidence in. But before we moved from Illinois, while we had the sandal business, we were approached about getting into real estate. And so in 2005, Brett and I both got our real estate license in Illinois, and we partnered with an auctioneer who was also a real estate broker, and we sold homes. It was called 30-day open bid. We went into a partnership with him, and we sold homes auction style. So most of the homes that we were selling were rehabbers and flippers, right? So they would buy houses and they would way over rehab them, or they bought them next to the train tracks, or they bought them in the ghetto. Real estate was so crazy in 2005 and 6 that people were buying stuff they never should have bought, just thinking, oh, well, it'll sell. If I make it nice enough, it'll sell. But you can't have a polished turd in the middle of a bunch of turds and expect to get top dollar, And so what we did is we took these mistakes and we sold them by creating a sense of urgency and competitive bidding. And it was open bid. So we would have people come, we would market for 30 days. And on the 30th day, you come to the property and you make your bid, you make your offer, and we would put it on the board. So we would bring like the 3M on an easel, and we would write the bids so everybody could see what the bids were. They didn't necessarily know who was making the bid, but as it would go on, people would realize who was making the bid, and they would bid against each other. And all you needed was 2 people who wanted the house, and we would bid it up, and these people would make enough to pay all their lenders. So I learned at that point that I did not want to get into flipping houses, because I watched these guys get their butts handed to them. They made no money for all their hassle, because all their money went back to their lenders, but it was their fault. They over rehabbed, they overpaid when they purchased, they bought in the wrong spots, they bought dumb houses that made no sense. We were successful in getting them out from under their lender, but they didn't walk away with profit. So then when we moved back to Wisconsin, back home, we realized, because now we have a baby, right? She's 10 months old. It's 2007. We moved back up to where both of our parents live. And we live 4 houses away from Brett's parents and 8 miles away from mine. So our daughter has her grandparents and we're back home. And we think, if we just didn't do all the things that those guys did and we do the things they didn't do, like learn from their mistakes, we know we can sell this stuff. I loved real estate. I loved selling it. I loved the marketing and the kind of just the fun of it. I said, we could probably be successful in this. And so we thought we didn't know enough, right? We did, but we didn't think we did. So we decided to get an education. We went to one of the weekend events that came to town with one of the big name gurus. We trusted the guru because we had actually met this person in the past and even had dinner with him at a black tie event. So we trusted all the information. It was a big name. And at the end of it, they just teach you how to raise your limits on your credit card so you can buy the coaching program. And we bought into that too. We got our limits raised. It worked. And we paid $25,000 for a guru program with like a phone coach. We did our first event. I think we had like 3 or 4 different events that were included in it that you could go to across the country. And the first one was actually local, so we could afford to go. So we went to that, and it was on wholesaling. And then we did our first phone call with the coach, and very quickly realized through those 2 events that they knew less than us. They were teaching us stuff that's not even legal in Wisconsin. They were trying to get us to invest in Indianapolis. I'm afraid to invest in my backyard. I sure don't want to invest in a home I cannot see and walk to without having to drive or fly. So here I am cutting bait again. 25 grand. We never went to another one of the classes. We never did another single phone call with that phone coach because we realized that it wasn't going to move us forward in our vision, it was just going to stagnate or take us backwards because it wasn't good information. And I actually knew that it wasn't. And I felt like I had better information than they did. So that's when we found Steve Cook online. He had flippinghomes.com. And we bought his programs for $300 a piece. We bought the rehabbing for big cash and wholesaling for fast cash, I think they were called, right?
Yeah, I had those courses too. Yep.
I still have them. Yep. But we went through them. Like there's plenty of courses that I bought since then and before then that are still in the plastic or that have been tossed. But those came out. I went through every single thing. I reached out to him in the forum, asked questions. He answered them. He actually came to Appleton, Wisconsin, to a RIA meeting. So I got to meet him and sit down and talk with him, which was pretty amazing. And then the one day he was like, so you've been doing all this study. When are you going to buy a house? And I'm like, well, we were afraid that we wouldn't find the funding. He's like, just go do it. Make offers. Just get a house. And it had been 10 months of us just like looking at houses, talking to people, not pulling the trigger. And a month later, we had a property. Because Steve was like, you need to just do it. Stop looking at houses and make an offer. Mm-hmm. And we made 21 grand on our first property and never looked back. It's been amazing ever since.
That's crazy, right? Incredible. That is what a journey. Wow. And I remember, we did a Lifeonaire Get a Life getaway up in your area. Was it last year or 2 years ago? I think it was last year. I can't remember. Anyway, and I remember you shared your story. And you said that now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said something along the lines of like, now we pay more in taxes than I ever expected to make as an income or something insane. I was just like, what? I know.
And I get so mad at paying the taxes. And I'm like, oh man, people are like, well, if you pay that much in taxes, you must do pretty well. I'm like, yeah, but I got to find a way not to pay.
And so this
but you're right. Yeah.
And so tell me now, like what's today, do you still find yourself cutting bait or have you settled into your vision or are I can't even speak.
Yeah.
Are you in alignment with the things have you finally arrived, I guess is what I'm asking. Like what are some of the things you're doing right now?
I don't know if you ever finally arrive, but yeah, I'm more settled in. I don't find myself feeling like anything needs to go other than I'm very passionate about Lifeonaire and what Lifeonaire offers. So obviously coming on board alongside of Lifeonaire and being honored to be able to be a coach and have a group of people that I'm able to teach the things that I learned. And maybe save them some time, right? Sometimes you can learn more. Not even sometimes. You can always learn more from someone's mistakes than you can their successes. If you had a list of what not to do, then you could just skip all that. The rest figures itself out, right? And so as far as like having ownership in the RIA, I'm the founder and the owner, and I set everything up. I take everything down along with my husband. And then we have the real estate coaching. Those are the things that now I'm starting to, very sadly though, I do love it, but there's only so much time in my ideal calendar for work and for these things. And I'm able to carry on some of my real estate coaching through my Lifeonaire students too, because there's a lot of Lifeonaire students that are also going through their real estate careers right now and learning things. So I'm still able to pour into them my knowledge in that arena. But I'm stepping away, hopefully by the end of this year. And I say that with a bit of a tear, right? Because I do love it, but I can't do all things, right? We only have 24 hours in the day. And when you choose how to spend them, there's only so much for work. So the RIA and the real estate coaching, I don't look at that as cutting bait. I just look at it as a transition into the next part of my vision.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah. And I imagine that when you enjoy something, there could be some sadness associated with letting that go. But what strikes me is you're pruning. You're looking for that absolute highest return for whatever measure, like joy, fulfillment, purpose. And so you're continually evolving towards that in everything you do. And so whereas in the past where you cut bait and maybe there were no, and maybe there were definitely, time to move on for that. This is a little bit different because I think when you start off, your choices probably aren't as clear and you're kind of moving from thing to thing, but now you've gotten to a point where you've evolved to a level of like, now it's the best of the best of the best of the best is how you spend your time.
Yes. Yeah. So in 2009, was it 9 or 10 when we had our very first like actual 3-day Lifeonaire, when Steve first put that together, in my Lifeonaire notebook, and I still have it, my Get a Life workbook. In the visions that we wrote, I had, remember he said, think big. He still says that, right? You teach that too. Think big. Like if money was no option, time was no option, like nothing was an obstacle. What do you want? What do you really want? So I own an RV and I travel across the country. I go out west and see all the national parks, pulling a Jeep behind it. So in April of this year, we call it going COVID crazy, right? Not knowing what was going to happen with life and realizing that our vision was going to be not our own for a little while, like being told what we could do, where we could go, and how we could make that look. We decided to buy a motorhome. So we bought a motorhome and we bought a brand new Jeep and we took it and got the little things on it so we can flat tow it behind our motorhome. And we also got an in-ground pool because all the public pools are closed to non-residents and we live in the country, so we're not a resident of anywhere with a public pool. So now we have our own pool. And we paid cash for all of that. But it was because we were saving up for our vision and have that opportunity, right? And those are the things that were in there. And really 11 years ago, that was in my vision. And now this year, we're taking the kids back into homeschool. They've been going to, well, my oldest started homeschooling again last year. She did 2 years of private school, but my little one did 3 years of private school. And now it just is going to look different this year. And what a great time to just take them on the road and school in the motorhome. And we're going to go all the way to the Redwoods and back. And we're just going to see every national park. So we're still putting dates together because there's a lot of different things that, you know, summer in Wisconsin, you have a lot of events and you have a lot of family things and stuff like that. But we'd like to leave in September so we can still hit some decent weather for Glacier National and Yellowstone and all the stuff that's north. But yeah, we're going to do that for 60 days.
Incredible. Incredible. So what started off in that vision all those years ago through many different twists and turns and some of which were dead ends and some of which were just options to redirect. Here you are today living the vision. Awesome. Jacci, thank you so much for being on the Lifeonaire show. This has been inspirational and I know is gonna affect our listeners in a major way. So thank you for being that example and thank you for joining us.
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Man, cutting bait. That is the one thing. Well, that and action. Those are the two things that, as I think of this interview, that just hit me right upside the head. Like here's somebody who, whenever something is not working. Now, you know, we didn't talk a whole lot about this and how she determined, like, yeah, I don't see this changing, or I don't see this, you know, shifting in a way that makes it better for me. She just cuts bait. That's the phrase. Those are the words she used. She just moves on to the next thing and without any regrets. You know, when I lost 15 years of my life towards that education that I got, I struggled with this, right? Because I'm like, man, I went to school for 15 years, like, and now I want to do something completely differently. And here's somebody who just did. And by the way, I didn't do it right away. Like I was much less aggressive and confident than Jacci was. It took me a little bit of time to make that shift. And here's someone who just makes things happen. She takes decisive action and just moves in a direction, like in whatever way she thinks is going to get her closer to her vision. It's pretty inspiring.
Yeah. And I think one of the important aspects out of that we mentioned actually on the episode is like, where do you live mentally, right? Because people, I think a lot of times it's difficult for them to cut that bait, so to speak, is because they're living in the past, right? What could have, should have, would have. And, you know, I did all this. I spent 15 years and all those kinds of things, as opposed to just going after the vision, living in the future, going to that. What am I going to do? What am I trying to accomplish? And all those kinds of things, right?
Well,
and that allows you to move quicker.
Yeah, but along those lines also, that's true. But think of the other side of it as well. Like living in the future, what if I, you know, because you've heard the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. What if I give up what I'm doing now and this thing isn't as good? She didn't give any consideration to that. She didn't get stuck in the future or the past. She just took that action in the moment, which is pretty amazing, because a lot of us can play that game like you're talking about. Hey, I've done all this stuff in the past and I have all this invested, and you know, it's like you have a stock and you see the stock going down in value, but like, hey, I've had the stock for 10 years, like, you know, I'm going to ride it. And like that's a very, very dangerous place to be in. Conversely, like jumping ship to that new ship, like what if I jump on the wrong ship? This is something that I kind of struggled with early on as well. Like what if I pick the wrong thing? And she just like totally went for it.
Right. Well, I think the other aspect to that, which she mentioned, is, you remember the dad kept reinforcing, right, that belief in her. Yeah. And I think she's got that strong conviction within herself, that belief that whatever I end up doing, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to make something happen, right? So that, coupled with that vision that you're trying to reach, I think gives you the ability to go and get on that ship, because I'm going to go after and do this. If it doesn't work, and she mentioned at one point, like, it's not my failure kind of thing, right? So she kind of detaches herself from the failure and makes it about like, oh, I'm a failure. She doesn't do that, right? I think that's an important aspect of it, because that was my other takeaway from this about how we see ourselves when it comes to failure. A lot of people who can't move on to the next thing is they really internalize it. I don't think she's doing that. You know, right. She just, okay, this happened. Yeah, review and let's try something else, you know.
Water off a duck's back. Yep, totally did not.
Water off a duck's back?
Yeah,
I've never heard that before. No.
That's a Polish phrase.
Oh, you have ducks? You have ducks now?
One other thing I took from this was the importance of having somebody instill that belief in you. And so if you're somebody listening right now that doesn't have that belief, you know, and maybe you didn't have a dad like Jacci who did this one thing for you, you got to get around other people that are going to help you build that belief in yourself as well. Because that's what happened here, right? He influenced her. And so being around the right people who are empowering, who are encouraging, who are giving you the right confidence and pointing you in the right direction, crucial, absolutely critical.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing about Lifeonaire, because we have this community, right? The way we do the groups and the way we do the coaches and everything, we are there to support each other, right?
Absolutely.
And that is such an important thing, because when times get tough, you need those kinds of people in your corner.
And they always get tough. Yep. Well, listen, speaking of the community, we have this brand new Lifeonaire app, Peter, that I would love for all of our listeners to go and join. It is free. You can download it wherever you download your app. I guess, I don't know, wherever you get your apps, the Apple Store or Google Play. You can get the desktop version over at lifeonaire.com/app. And in the app, in addition to all the great conversations and discussion going on, we have a free gift for you. It is a Lifeonaire Fast Start Kit, so you can start learning more about creating your own vision and creating your own life. And so you heard how Jacci did that, and now you get to do that as well. And we also have training on the 4 stages of financial prosperity and a bunch of other things in there that you will find beneficial in your Lifeonaire journey. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, if you got something out of it, we would love to hear from you. Please leave us a review, a rating. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know how we can serve you better. And as always, we are very grateful for you listening and for you spending time with us. We will see you guys next week. Take care, everyone.